Go. Arkamosai, good morning. Let's begin. First of all, a very special thank you to Saeed for sponsoring this morning's refreshments in honor of the birth and bris of his grandson Shalom Issaver, as well as in honor of Father's Day. So we wish that Shalom Emiratz Hashem should be zocha to grow up to be a true Ben Torah, to give incredible nachas to his mishpacha. Halavai Kadosh Baruch Hu should give us all the siyata d'shmaya to be good, to be inspirational fathers. All right, so let's begin. So you did your homework. That wasn't a question, that was a statement. Okay, so we're picking up. We are picking up at the end. Today's daf is Kuf Mem Zayin 147. We actually have this is mamish. I know I say it often, but today it's really the MS. This is a beautiful, beautiful daf ahead of us today. We're picking up on the last two. So it's Kuf Mem Zayin 147. We're picking up last two lines. Kuf Mem Vav Amud Beis. Man Tana Luhu de Tana Rabbanan. So we'll say, remember again, just a quick review from the Mishnah. The Mishnah introduced us. It's interesting. We spent a lot of time speaking about the matan, or the ability of a shchid meirah to convey property to someone else. So now, interestingly enough, after we've discussed it many times, what we're now focusing on is the actual mechanics of that type of gift. So the Mishnah introduced us to the idea that one of the interesting ways you can tell the difference between if it's really a matna shchid meirah or not a matna shchid meirah is if the shchid meirah retains something for himself. If the shchid meirah gives away his property, but he retains something for himself, that's not really a deathbed gift. Because the real essence of a matna shchid meirah, of a deathbed gift, Rabbi say, is what? Is where a person feels that what's going to happen? He's going to die. So what he's doing is, and we'll discuss this, the psychology of this, he's going to die, and therefore, again, he's offloading his property now. It gives him a certain level of yishav hadas, of inner tranquility, to be able to know that he is dispensing his estate or dispersing his estate as necessary. If he holds something back for himself, so that's not a matna shchid meirah, because that, again, because maybe he's hopeful that he's going to recover. Gets into a general discussion about a umdina. So what this Mishnah reflects is the idea that we look at people's intent. So we'll say umdina means that when someone makes a statement, or in this case, when someone's conveying property, that what we look at ultimately is their state of mind. So the Gemara spent the end of yesterday's daf trying to figure out who is the opinion who holds that we go basra and rabosai. So let me give you, this is actually very exciting, because what this says is the following. When someone makes a statement, so the shaila is, do we go ahead and look at what they said, or do they look at what they really mean by what they're saying? This is a very important tool in Shalom Bayis, right? Meaning, again, so everyone knows that in marriage you go basar umdina. It's never about what's said; it's about what's meant. What's meant. So the shaila is, do you apply this to context outside of your marriage, in a transactional level? When somebody says something, do we just take their words at face value and that's it, or do we look for the intent behind the statement? The Mishnah seems to be telling us that we go basar umdina, which means we don't just look at the statement, but rather, again, we look at the intent behind the statement as well. So the Gemara says, you saw in the homework, although I'm pretty much doing the homework again, but we saw in the homework, the Gemara quoted two different opinions who highlight the idea that we go basra umdina. So I will say, based on it, the Gemara says, Man tana lahu de tana rabbanan. So we'll say, who is the opinion? Whose opinion would be reflected in the following teaching? The tana rabbanan. Harisha hayachol el mutal b'mita. So let's listen to this. A man was sick, and again, obviously, whenever we speak about sickness, not just stomach sickness, but again, someone's on his deathbed. So we'll say, so what happens? So people come in and they ask him, who do you want your property to go to? So we'll say, don't do this in a bigger cholim visit. How's the food? How's the food in the house? Who do you want your property to go to? We'll say, but the idea over here is these are individuals who are trying to help the person get his affairs in order. So they're asking him again, we'll say, which also highlights the need to plan ahead with these kind of things. Why estate planning is important, because at the end of the day, if a person doesn't have a proper plan in place, it throws mishpachos into chaos. In any event, so the Brisa says over here, Man is sick. They come and they ask him, who do you want your property to go to after so these conversations. You should have it a for shalema, but you should have it a for shalema. But if you don't, who do you want your property to go to? And we'll say, what does the Chola say? Top of Kuf Mem Zayin. The Chola says, Dome sheyesh li ben. So we'll say, it's actually a very interesting lashon over here. Dome sheyesh li ben. Now we'll say, look at the Rashbam for just a moment. Top Rashbam Kuf Mem Zayin Amud Aleph. Dome kilomar kimeduma hayisi sheyesh li ben achshav shenod li she'en li ben. So he said, Dome mean that I had a son. Used to be that I had a son. Achshav she'en li ben nechasai leploni. Now that I don't have a son, so my property should go to someone else. So we'll say what the Shchimera seems to be saying is the following. I had a son, and apparently, again, to the Shchimera's knowledge, his son passed away. So Doma Shiyesh Li Ben. When I used to have a son, so parentheses, my property would have been left to my son. Now, Nebuch, that I don't have a son, I'm giving all of my property to Ploni. Or Hayachola Muta B'mita. People say similar case, a man is deathly ill. He's lying on his deathbed. And he says, they ask him, who do you want your property to go to? And he says to them, my wife was pregnant. But now that my wife is no longer pregnant, my wife miscarried, no longer pregnant, so I hereby give all of my property over to Ploni. So we'll say in both of these cases, what the Shchimera is saying is what? I had a son, or my wife was pregnant. So again, had my son still been alive, I would have given the property. Now, he's not saying all of this. All he's saying is, I had a son, right? I had a son. Now that I don't have a son, my property goes to Ploni. My wife was pregnant. Now that my wife's not pregnant, my nechasim should go to Ploni. And what happens, Rabbi Osai? V'noda sheyesh lo ben o shahaisi ishto mu'beres. So Rabbi Osai, then it turns out that what? The Shchimera was wrong. The son, Baruch Hashem, had not passed away, or the wife had not miscarried. What's the halacha? Ein matana sa matana. So we'll say the gift, i.e. the conveyance that the Shchimera made to Ploni is not a valid conveyance. I will say, now here what's fascinating about this case. In this case over here, the Shchimera is making a declarative statement. What's his declarative statement? Right? Nechasav leploni. Now he happens to be giving us a little bit of a hakdama over here, right? He's giving us a little bit of an introduction about his life story. I had a son. I no longer have a son. Give the nechasim to Ploni. My wife was pregnant. She's not pregnant. Give my nechasim to Ploni. Yet Rabbi say, what do we see over here? We see over here that we do not look at his statement in a vacuum. We don't just look at the nechasim to Ploni in a vacuum. Rather, what do we look at? We look at the introduction he's giving to us. We'll say this is called an umdina. So umdina says that we look not just at the statement that he made, but ultimately again at the intention behind the statement. Salema, Rav Shimon Manasseh. So we'll say this would seem to reflect the view of Rav Shimon Manasseh. Rav Shimon Manasseh was one of the opinions, ultimately quoted on Kuf Mem Vav Amud Beis, who holds that we go basar umdina. We look at the intent of the giver, not only his statement, and therefore, again, this would seem to reflect that view that we see. Why is Shchimera giving the matana to Ploni? Why is he giving the matana to Ploni? Well, so we understand that inherent in his statement is the fact that he thought his son was dead, that he thought his wife had miscarried. Now that he realized that he was incorrect about that reality, therefore we assume he would not have wanted to give the gift to Ploni. To which the Gemara says, no, we'll say this would be a case where everybody would agree. Everybody would agree that the gift is void when it turns out that the son is alive or that the wife did not miscarry. Why? Because Doma shiny. So we'll say, in this case over here, the man is being explicit, the Shchimera is being explicit about his intentions. When he says, Doma sheyesh li ben, achshav she'en li ben, nechasai leploni. We'll say, this is not a case of an umdina. This is a case of what? This is more a case of a t'nai. This is more a case almost of a conditional gift. But what he's saying is, the reason I am giving this gift to Ploni is because my son is dead. The reason I'm giving this gift to Ploni is because my wife miscarried. So it's understood, it's almost explicit in this statement that if my son were still alive, if my wife had not miscarried, then of course I would be giving this gift to my son, or I'd be leaving the property to the child to be born. So the Gemara says, well, if that's the case, so we'll say, here's what's interesting. What's interesting is the following. So we thought up until now, so we've been focusing on, do you look at umdina or not? Do you look at intention behind the statement or not? So that's the machlokes. But apparently what the Gemara is telling me now is, everyone will agree that if the intention is so clearly expressed, or if the intention is explicit, then it's no longer a question of intention. It almost becomes a little bit more begeder t'nai. It almost becomes like a little bit more as if it's a condition. And everyone will agree with that. But the car, my car. So we'll say, so what's the havamina over here? So what's the havamina? To say that halacha l'maisa, the gift to Ploni should still stand, to which the Gemara says, Ma'odetema, what would I have thought? Sa'ari huti kamatker. I might have thought that maybe Rav Osai, what's happening over here is that maybe the Shekhinah is just voicing his pain. But I mean, you see this a lot by people who are ill, right? By people who realize that life is coming to an end. It's an incredible period for reflection. So maybe what's happening over here is that when someone asks the Shekhinah, what do you want to do with Blessy? What do you want to do with your estate? That it's just his opportunity to reflect on the pain of the past. So he's just bringing up his son who passed away. He's bringing up the fact that his wife miscarried. So meaning maybe he's not making a conditional gift, but maybe he's just reflecting on his tsar. Kamash Mala, no. Kamash, we understand that what effectively he is saying is, I'm giving this gift to Ploni because I don't have a living son. I'm giving this gift to Ploni because my wife miscarried. Therefore, when it turns out that's what Rabbi said, when it turns out that what? That his information was wrong, we understand ultimately again that the gift to Ploni is in fact void. So this introduces us to a new dynamic. So we have machlokes as to whether or not do we go basra umdina, not go basra umdina. Do we look at the intention of the giver or not look at the intention of the giver? So that's the machlokes. But everyone will agree when ultimately again there is a clear expression of intent, that there's a clear expression that I'm giving the gift because of X reason or Y reason, that's built into the very transaction. And therefore, if my intention was flawed, then ultimately everyone will agree that the gift was voidable. Good. I'm going to say it. So we'll say, Kof Mem Zayin Aleph 147a. We're about 8 lines in to those joining us. Amar Rab Zera, Amar Rav, Minayin Lematna Shchibira Shehu Min HaTorah. So we'll say, ultimately, again, I think we're going to ask an interesting idea. And we'll say, this is very dramatic. How do we know that the ability of a shchimira, we'll say, to convey property without kinyana, we'll say, you understand, the incredible novelty of a shchimira is what? That he has the ability to convey property to someone else without any formal mechanism of a kinyan. Right? And I will say, it's as if it was conveyed through a kinyan. How do we know that a shchimira has, how do we know midoraisa that a shchimira has the ability to convey property or to convey assets? Sorry? So generally you need edus. You do need edus to a matna shchimira because otherwise, remember, the simple issue is, how does anyone know that it's happening? He died. Right? So you need some type of edus. But the idea over here is, remember, we say divrei shchimira keksuvin v'chimsurin damu. It's as if they're written and given over. So a shchimira need not avail himself of any classical avenue of kinyan, rather his words are enough. So the Gemara says, Rav Nachman says the name of Rav, I'm sorry. The Gemara asks, Rabbi Zera asks the name of Rav, where do we know that Amal Shchimira is effective midaraisa? Now, if you take a look at that, so the Rashbam understands over here, Minay Lamatna Shchimira, he says, Shekona bedibor below kinyan sudar, that the Shchimira has the ability to convey something over with words, even without a kinyan. So we'll say, so according to the Rashbam, the Gemara is literally asking, how do we know that Amatna Shchimira works midaraisa? I will say Tosis and Divrei Maskal Minayin. So the first Tosis on the right, on the left-hand side. If you skip 3 lines down, he says the Gemara doesn't mean to say that Matna Shchimira is a Doraisa. What the Gemara really means to say is the following: Allah asmachta ba'almahu. What the Gemara is asking about say is no one's actually suggesting that a Matna Shchimira is Doraisa. What the Gemara is suggesting is what they're both saying. That it's an asmachta. What's an asmachta? Asmachta is something that is rabbinic in nature, but that finds like a biblical foothold. So like a scriptural allusion. So according to the Rashbam, the Gemara is literally suggesting that a matna shchimira is doraisa. According to Tosis, no, it's not doraisa. It's Rabbanan. Also, we're going to prove this on Amud Beis. It's Rabbanan, but can you give us like a scriptural allusion to this? So we'll say this is very exciting. So the Gemara says, Shneimar, the Pasuk says, you shall go ahead and literally pass over the nachala to his daughter. So we spent a lot of time speaking about this particular pasuk. Remember, again, this is about if a man doesn't have sons, so his nachala, his inheritance, the Yerusha goes to the daughters. So we'll say, so listen to this. If you look at the Rashbam, it's actually, this is one of these, such a nice little gift. The Rashbam is right across. You don't have to search for it. Just move, shift your eyes to the right, and the Rashbam is right there. Because we'll say the pasuk could have said, if a man dies and he has no son, his inheritance goes to his daughter. Why does the Torah have to use the lashon of v'ha'avartem? Why v'ha'avartem, which means to pass over, to shift? You don't need that word. That word is extra. What does that word teach us? There is another passing over of inheritance that is like this one. Ve'ezo, and which passing of inheritance is this? Zu matna shchivmira. So also the Torah is teaching us that Lamaisa, the extra word v'avartem, teaches us that there is another way to convey estate property that is as effective as any other mechanism of Yerusha. What mechanism is this, or what event is this? This is a matna shchivmira. So that extra word of v'avartem teaches us that a matna shchivmira is effective midaraisa. Rav Nachman Amar Rabba Baravua Mehacha. So we'll say that's in Rabba Baravua from a different source. The pasuk says, "Unesatem es nachalaso la'echav." Right? Again, the same laws of Yerusha will say. So the pasuk says, "You shall give his nachala to his brothers." So we'll say again, same idea. This ultimately again is an extra. That word unesatem is extra. It could have just said nachalaso la'achiv. It could have just said the nachala will ultimately go to the brothers. The word unesatem is extra. There's another conveyance of property that is as effective as this one. Ve'ezo, which one is this? Zu matna shchimira. We'll say ultimately again, this is the matna shchimira. So we'll say both of these opinions are learning out the ability of a matna shchimira to successfully convey property from an extra word in the laws of Yerusha. One is learning it out from the word of ha'avartem. One is learning it out from the word of unesatem. But the common denominator is both feel that these words are extra. So says the Gemara, Rav Nachman, my time Amar may v'ha'avartem. So why does Rav Nachman learn it out from unesatem? Why doesn't he learn it out from the word v'ha'avartem? Because it will say that word v'ha'avartem is necessary to teach another law according to Rebbe. What's the law? The Sanya. Rebbe Omer b'kulan ne'emra b'hen nesina v'kan ne'emra ha'avara. What do we know? We'll say Rebbe says that in all the other inheritance situations, the Torah uses the word nesina. Yet here, by a daughter inheriting, the Torah uses the word ha'avara. Why? Because also remember again, why does the Torah use the lashon of ha'avara when it comes to a daughter inheriting? Because it will say when a daughter inherits property from her father, she has the ability to, or not pass over, but what? Transverse. Give a couple of to that. Good. Right, transverse. Right, good. Transverse. Right, he has the ability to have a cross. Okay. The idea being is I will say that ultimately again the word nesina would mean to give. The word havara means to literally again transverse or transmit or pass over something from one place to another. Who has the ability to do that? So the Gemara says it's only a daughter. Why? Because let's remember again, with a daughter, if the daughter inherits, it's possible that over time what's going to happen? That property that ends up with her is ultimately going to end up in the hands of another shevet. Because if she predeceases her husband or her son, ultimately again this property ends up going to another shevet. Therefore, the Torah dafka used lashon of ha'avartem by a daughter. So the Gemara said, Rabbi Zira, my time Amar mivinesatem. So Rabbi Zira, why does he not learn it out from Satem? Orchei dikro. Because Rabbi Zira says, unesatem on both sides not to be darshin. Unesatem is just a regular lashon of the pasuk. For Rav Menashe bar Yirmiyah Amar Mehacha, both the second white line. Rav Menashe bar Yirmiyah says that we can learn out that a matna shchimira works on the fine. Now, both sides. Interestingly enough, he is not going to quote the pasuk from Navi, not a pasuk from Chumash. So it's actually a very important episode. He says, it was in those days, Chizkiyahu HaMelech is going to die. Vayovo elav Yeshayahu ben Amoz Hanavi. Vayomer elav. Someone say, this is the famous Bikur Cholim visit between Chizkiyahu and Yeshayahu. Remember again, Chizkiyahu is dying. Why is Chizkiyahu dying? Why is he dying? Chizkiyahu refuses to get married. Right? Why does he refuse to get married? Because he sees Baruch HaKodesh that if he has children, they're going to be Rishon. So he makes a conscious decision not to get married, not to have children. Now understand, there's been a little bit of a fallout between Chizkiyahu and Yeshayahu to begin with, but Yeshayahu goes ahead and goes to be Mavaker Cholim. So he shows up in Chizkiyahu's house, and what does he say? One simple message. Ko Amar Hashem, Ki Meis Ata. This is quite a big Cholim visit, right? He shows up and he says, Chizkiyahu, you better give final instructions to the members of your household. Why? You're going to die. You're going to die. They're both saying, now remember, so the Gemara says, you're going to die and you're not going to live. But say, by the way, that's an interesting lesson in and of itself. You're going to die, you're not going to live, which ultimately, again, is the way of Yeshayahu and Chizkiyahu. You're going to die. And by the way, the reason for your death is your own fault. Kadosh Baruch Hu is upset at you for not marrying and ultimately, again, not having children. But I will say, now, I'll explain this in just a moment. What we're picking up on this is the following. That Yeshayahu tells Chizkiyahu, he says, Tzav leveischa. Command your home. In other words, give instructions to your household about how to divide up your property. What do you see from here? B'tzava ba'alma. You see that a shchimera has the ability to go ahead and what? Has the ability to dispense, or I should say allocate, his estate through simple verbal commands. So from here we see that what? That divrei shchimera kiksubin v'chimsrum. Now granted, this is a pasuk from Navi, not a pasuk from Chumash, but nevertheless, it's biblical in nature. This works well according to Tosfos, that we're not really saying that divrei shchimera kiksubin v'chimsrum damu is actually a daraisa, rather we're saying it's a dirabanan, but we're looking for a biblical proof text. So a pasuk from Navi works just as well. So you understand, this is an important episode. Why? Because the mice, again, this is where the Gemara says, I think it's Brachos or Shabbos, but the Gemara brings down that Chizkiyahu turns to Yeshayahu and says, why am I going to die? And remember, Yeshayahu says to him, you're going to die because you never married. Chizkiyahu says, I never married because I made a conscious decision not to marry because I saw that my children are going to be Rishayim. To which Yeshayahu says to Chizkiyahu, remember, why are you getting involved in God's cheshbonos? It's not your business. Your business is to get married, try to have children. So remember again, Chizkiyahu says to Yeshayahu, what? Yeshayahu, you have a daughter, you have a single daughter, I'll marry who? I'll marry her. To which Yeshayahu says, too late, you're going to die. To which Chizkiyahu says, I'm a descendant. You have David HaMelech, and we have a Messiah in our household. Even if a sharp sword is against someone's neck, you never stop asking God for mercy. In other words, what Chizkiyahu was saying is, it's never too late. Yeshayahu says, okay, Chizkiyahu marries Yeshayahu's daughter. Chizkiyahu is healed from his illness. They happen to have a son by the name of Menashe. Becomes the longest reigning monarch. He reigns for 55 years. He was a Merusha for 33 of them. He introduces Avodah Zarah into every single corner of the land. For the last 22 years of his life, he himself is a Chozer B'tshuva. He becomes a great tzaddik. He dies in a state of righteousness. He tries to undo all of the terrible damage that he introduced into the land, and he was unsuccessful. He had been so successful in the first 33 years of his reign of introducing idolatry that he could not fully dial back all that he did. He tried to the best of his ability. So on one hand, amazingly enough, Chizkiyahu was right, but he was wrong. Meaning he was right in that he had a son who was a Rasha for 33 years of his reign. But at the end of the day, Menashe ends off his life as a tzaddik. Menashe is a Chozer B'tshuva for 22 years, and at least himself dies in a personal state of righteousness. In any event, the Gemara says, you see from here that halacha l'maisa, a shchimera has the ability and his household in the conveyance of property, and that verbal command is as effective as actual kinyanim. supposed to listen to this. The Gemara says, Rami Bar Yecheskel or Mehach. Rami Bar Yecheskel has a different approach or a different source. This is all amazing. V'achitofel ra kilo ne'esta atzaso. Achitofel saw that his Eitzah did not bear fruit. They will say, who's Achitofel? Achitofel was one of the advisors of David HaMelech. Now what happens? We know Avshalom rebels against David. Avshalom's rebellion was one of David HaMelech's punishments for the episode with Bathsheba. There were 3 punishments that David HaMelech got for the episode of Bathsheba. Number 1, that he had an infant son who passed away. Number 2, that there be a rebellion from within his own household. Number 3, that he himself would be stricken with illness. So all those 3 punishments happened as a result of the episode of Bathsheba. When Avshalom rebels, some of David's closest inner circle, some of his own cabinet, defect towards Avshalom. One of the high-level defections was a man by the name of Achitofel. Achitofel was one of David HaMelech's closest advisors. He goes, for whatever reason, to Avshalom. Now, remember again, Avshalom runs David out of Yerushalayim. David HaMelech will not fight against his son. Much to the chagrin of his own advisors, he will not fight against his son. So he gathers just his closest advisors, they flee Yerushalayim. Achitofel tells Avshalom, you run after David now. He's compromised. He's weak. If you run after him now, you'll catch up with him, you'll kill him, and you will become the king. If you allow him time to regroup, you will lose. Avshalom consults with Achitofel, but he also has some other advisors. Let's see. His other advisors, again, happen to be much younger, unseasoned individuals. They say, no, don't worry, David doesn't pose any threat to you. Consolidate your power here in Yerushalayim. You'll run after David later on. Avshalom chooses to side with the unseasoned advisors. When Achitofel realizes what has just happened, that his advice has not been listened to, he realizes that what? The rebellion is going to be unsuccessful. David HaMelech is going to come back into power. Achitofel also knows that when David HaMelech comes back to power, what's going to happen to him? He's going to be executed because as a Bava Basra, someone who a traitor. So watch this. What does Achitofel do? So this is it's a tragic scene. Achitofel realizes that his Eitzah was not taken. So he saddles up his donkey. He goes back home to his family. He gives final commands to his family. And he kills himself. Achitofel took his own life. They're both saying, now this is actually quite traumatic over here. So what's the raya? The raya over here is that Achitofel just gave verbal commands to his family, but those verbal commands were executed as if, again, they were written down. They're both saying, now the great novelty in this particular case is what? Right? Now, interestingly enough, the Gemara is treating Achitofel as a shchivmera. Even though, again, he's not a shchimra, he's perfectly healthy, but the fact that it was clear that his intention was to kill himself, therefore, again, his life is ending, and therefore the Gemara looks ultimately. Now, by the way, the reason Achitofel wants to dispense his estate before he kills himself is why? It is actually quite interesting, because if you die and you are a Moir Malchus, meaning if you are executed by the king, this is why Achitofel takes his own life. If you are executed by the king for treason, your property becomes the king's property. Achitofel realizes that the only way to keep his property in his family is to take his own life. So he chooses to go ahead and dispense his own estate amongst his sons. Then he kills himself, thereby ensuring ultimately that his family does not suffer because of his mistakes. But the point the Gemara is making over here is he goes back home, vayitzav. So I will say the lashon of tzav is lashon of a verbal transmission. See, he's giving his verbal instructions, and yet you see that is enough to go ahead and affect the property transfer. So from here you see that divrei shchimira kiksuvin v'chimsurin damo. So I'll say once the Gemara brings up Achitofel, the Gemara says Tarabanan. It's actually quite amazing. Shlosha dvarim siva Achitofel as badav. Achitofel didn't just go ahead and convey his property; he also gave like an ethical will, right? He gave over final instructions to his family. So what did he tell his children? Number 1, machlokes. Let's say, so the first piece of advice he tells them is, you know what? Don't get involved in machlokes. Because I will say, those who get involved in machlokes, everyone loses. Or I should say, everyone loses something. There are very few people who actually gain from machlokes. More people actually lose. So don't get involved in machlokes. That's a piece of advice number 2. Not right. This is number 1. Number 2. Al timrod b'malchus beis David. Don't rebel against the Davidic king. The Davidic kingdom is blessed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Do not rebel against that kingdom. Next, the Yom Tov Shalat Seres Barur Zaruchitim. Advice number 3 I will say is, if ultimately, again, if you see that on Shavuos, it's a clear day, that's a good omen for the wheat crop, plant wheat that year. Plant wheat that year. It was an interesting enough, Shavuos is the time where they harvest the wheat. So he's saying over here, if Shavuos is clear, that's a good omen for next year's crop. So if this just, by the way, there's nothing esoteric. It's just this is an agricultural piece of advice. So it's interesting. What he's giving his children is he's giving them moral, ethical advice. Don't get involved in machlokes because it doesn't pay. Don't rebel against the Davidic kingdom. And I'm going to give you some agricultural business advice as well. If the weather on Shavuos is good, that is a good omen for the coming year's crop. Go ahead and plant wheat that year. So the Gemara says, Mar Zutra Amar Balul Itmar. Mar Zutra says, no, what he told them is not if Shavuos is sunny, but rather if Shavuos is cloudy. If Shavuos is a cloudy day, that is a good omen for the wheat. Plant wheat then. Rabbi said they had these type of omens, these agricultural omens. Se Itmar, Amri Gemara says, Aminar Doi, B'Shed Rav Yaakov. Doim had a different version of this exchange with Rav Yaakov. Lo Bar Mamish. The day this doesn't have to be totally clear, and the day doesn't have to be totally cloudy. Elo afilu balul v'ruach tzifonis min hashaftu zehu barur. I will say rather what it means is the following: if it's cloudy, but there's an there is a northerly wind, right? If it's cloudy but there's a northerly wind, that's okay also. Why? I will say that's also called a clear day, because if there's a northerly wind, then at the end of the day, the wind is going to push away the clouds. Even if it's a cloudy day, but there's a northerly wind, that's like it's a clear day, and this would be a good omen ultimately for planting wheat that year. Amrli Rabbi Abba Ravashi. So as Rabbi Abi said to Ravashi, Anan ad Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi masnin Allah. We go ahead and we'll say, and we understand this like Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi. The Amar Rav Yitzchak will say, now that we brought up this whole thing by Achitofel and cloudy day, clear day, the Gemara brings up other eitzos like this. What did Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi say? Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi, Motzei Yom Tov Achron Shel Chag. So listen to this. So on the Motzei Yom Tov Achron Shel Chag, which Shabbos was the last day of Sukkot, right? Motzei Yom Tov Achron Shel Chag, which ultimately again is after Shmini Atzeres. Just remember again, after Shmini Atzeres, after Sukkot is the official beginning of the rainy season. Now again, we try to push off, of course, the beginning of the rainy season until after Sukkot in order that it not interfere with our performance of the mitzvah. But Lamaisa, again, after the Yom Tov of Sukkot is when everyone goes out to look at the weather. Hakol Sofin La'ashan HaMa'aracha. I will say everyone went out to see the Ashna Ma'aracha, the smoke that came off of the Mizbeach. Why? Everyone wants to see, Rabosai, in which direction are the winds blowing. Depending on how the smoke of the Ma'aracha shifts, ultimately depends, will show you how the winds are blowing. Watch this. So the Gemara says, Nota klapet safam, if ultimately, again, the Asher HaMa'aracha, if the smoke, the column of smoke coming off the Mizbeach, shifted klapet safam, if it went towards the north, ani and smechim, uba'ale batim atzavim. So if the wind, if the smoke shifted towards the north, so ultimately again a northern wind, then the aniyim were happy, and the balabatim are the merchants, were unhappy. Because what did that show? That showed that it was going to be a very rainy year. Now what happens if it's a very rainy year? So that means there's a lot of humidity. If there's a lot of humidity, then what? You can't store fruit for a long time. If you can't store fruit for a long time, then what happens? Then the market is flooded with fruit. If the market is flooded with fruit, then what happens? Prices go down. So the aniyim are happy because they'll be able to get merchandise at a discount. But lemais again, so the aniyim are happy. Thank you, Baruch Hashem. But the merchants ultimately again are going to be unhappy because at the end of the day, they're not going to get the full price for their wares. So the Gemara goes weiter. Next, if at the end of the day the wind shifted towards the south, southerly wind, then aniyim matzavim, ultimately again the aniyim, so the poor people are very upset. Ubali batim smechin, but the merchants are happy. Why? What does that show? We'll say there'll be less rains, less humidity. Therefore, the merchants could store the crop. If the merchants could store the crop, then they can regulate the release of produce into the marketplace, in which case, again, they can ensure that prices stay high. The merchants are happy because they make money. The aniyim are upset because ultimately produce is more expensive. Klape mizrach, if we'll say this is all, remember this, all talking about the column of smoke that came off the Mizbeach. If the column of smoke ultimately shifted towards the east, Klape Mizrach, Hakol Smechem, everyone is happy. Because apparently if it went towards the east, then what? There'd be just enough rainfall that there'd be enough produce. I guess again, the Balabatim could go ahead and store something, but not everything. So it's like market equilibrium. The Balabatim make their money, but the prices are not too high that the Aniyim can't afford anything. Klape Mara, Rabbi say ultimately again, if the pillar of smoke shifted towards the west, Hakolat Savin, everyone was upset. Why was everyone upset? Because I said that showed drought. That showed drought. Or minu. Rabbi say a shaila over here. So according to this brisa, so if again easterly wind, everybody was happy. Westerly wind, everybody was upset. Or mini. Gemara is a kasha. Mizrachas li olam yafa, ma'arabas li olam kasha. It says an easterly wind is always good, a westerly wind is always bad. So we'll say a northern wind is good for wheat. Ultimately, again, when they have matured to 1/3 of their maturity, the kasha lezesim b'shashenitzu, but they're not good for olives when the olives have blossomed. Burach deromis kasha lechitin b'vav b'shasheviushlish. We'll say a southerly wind. Harmful for wheat when the wheat ultimately again has reached 1/3 of its maturity. But ultimately is good for olives when they've begun to blossom. The way to remember this is the following, meaning the shulchan is in the north and of the Beis Hamikdash, and the menorah is in the south. So we'll say, therefore, why is this a good mnemonic? Because the shulchan, which had the lechem apanim, the bread on it, bread is made from wheat. Therefore, you see from here that what? Northern winds are good for wheat. The menorah, which was in the south, olive oil, right? So ultimately, again, the southern winds are good for the olives. High marbidide. So the high marbidide, each direction supports its own. So the northern wind, which again correlates to the northern direction of the shulchan, is good for the wheat. The southern wind, which correlates to the southern direction of the menorah, ultimately is good for the olives. So the point over here is you see that there's a stira. Are the northern winds good, or are the are the eastern winds good, or the western winds good? So also we have a contradiction between the brisa and the previous brisa. Lo kasha, it's not a contradiction. Halan v'haluhu. We'll say it all depends on your orientation. Look at the Rashbam. We'll say it's the last 3 lines. Halan libnei Bavel hashochnim b'metzula v'artzinu meluchlachas ve'ino tzricha lamatar kol kach. Shabbosai Bavel, which Shabbosai had a lot of rain. This Bavel itself, the soil was let's say it differently. Bavel was very humid. So because Bavel was very humid, Bavel did not need an abundance of rain. Oledidan misnisa basraisa basraisa shema'araves kasha v'fishemateres yosemidai libnei Bavel. So we'll say, listen to this. So therefore, for Bnei Bavel, the southern wind, the western wind, which I will say brings with it an incredible amount of rain, was not good for Bnei Bavel. That's not good for Bnei Bavel, because for Bnei Bavel, an abundance of rain is actually detrimental. Why? Because the soil itself is already moist. Therefore, for Bnei Bavel, The southern wind is bad because southern wind brings a lot of rain. The eastern wind, sorry, I keep saying the southern. The western wind is detrimental. The eastern wind is good. Ubraisa kamaisa demasanya epcha demasni epcha lubni libnei Yisrael sha'artzam gavov v'tzich lamatar. Both on the flip side, Eretz Yisrael needs as much rain as possible. So therefore, again, on both sides, for Bavel, which doesn't need a lot of rain, the western wind, which brings with it rain, is detrimental. The eastern wind, which takes away rain, is better. For Bnei Eretz Yisrael, who need wind, who need rain, so the western wind is good. The eastern wind is detrimental. Fine. So it says the Gemara. Let's go back there. So the Gemara says, "Halan v'halu." So the Gemara is Tanya Abba Shalom Yom Tov Atz Yom Tov Shalatzeres Barer Simen Yafa L'Chala Shalakula. So let's remember again, as we said before, this is how we got into this whole discussion. That one of the things that Achitofel told his children was what? That if on Yom Tov of Shavuos, if it's a clear day, that is a good omen for the wheat crop for the coming year. Sabba Shal said Yom Tov Shalatzeres Barer Simen Yafa L'Chala Shalakula. If Shavuos, I will say, is a clear day, that is a good omen for the crop for the rest of the year. Amrav Zvid, Hay Yom Kama Dere Shasa. We'll say on Rosh Hashanah, I Chamim Kula Shasa Chamima. We'll say if Rosh Hashanah is hot, that means it's going to be a hot year. Ikar, if Rosh Hashanah is a cool day, then Kula Shasa Karira. Then I will say that's a good omen that the rest of the year is going to be cool as well. I will say, who cares? What is this, like a meteorological thing? What does this matter? I will say, watch this. This is how beautiful this is. The tefillah shall Kohen Gadol. I will say, it matters for the tefillah of the Kohen Gadol. I will say, look at the Rashbam. The tefillah shall Kohen Gadol. Shayim ispalo b'yom kippurim. Shetia shana sug yeshuma u'shechuna. Ve'ata lefia inyan shir Rosh Hashanah yispal b'yom kippur. Listen to this. So the Gemara says the following. The Gemara says that, remember, part of the tefillah of the Kohen Gadol in the Kodesh HaKadoshim is that he davened ultimately again that the atmospheric conditions should be conducive to an abundant crop. Therefore, I will say it's important for the Kohen Gadol to take note of the weather on Rosh Hashanah, because the weather on Rosh Hashanah sets the tone for the rest of the year. Therefore, again, if it was a cold day or if it was a hot day, so the Kohen Gadol would adjust his tefillos accordingly to ensure that, again, it was the proper weather ultimately for the rest of the year, in order to ensure agricultural abundance for Klal Yisrael. So we'll say this brings to an end a discussion about the winds. I do want to point out to you something very interesting. If you go back to Amud Aleph for just a moment, so remember again, the Gemara set up the following idea. The Gemara said, the Gemara said that on the Yom Tov Acharon Shel Sukkos, on the Yom Tov Acharon Shel Chag, on the last day, Matzeh, what would everybody do? Everybody would go out to the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash, and what would they look at? They would look at the Ashan HaMa'aracha. They would look at the smoke ascending off the Mizbeach, and what would they look for? To see which direction that smoke was going in, because depending on what direction, that would give them an insight about what always went up with the rainfall. But as Tosis, Lo nitzcha haruach ashra ma'aracha. Both sides, we know the Gemara says that one of the 10 miracles that occurred in the Beis Hamikdash was what? Was that the Ashran Mizbeach always ascended straight up. It always went up in a straight pillar. Wind never impacted it. So how could the Gemara say over here that what? That the wind blew the Ashran? So both sides, there's a simple teretz. The simple teretz by the Gemara says, Gemara gives two teretz. So this is in Tosis, this is actually interesting. Tosis says, Umishani le shapir. So then Tosis says, I'm not doing the work for you. You go look it up. Right? So the Gemara Maseches Yuma on Chaf Aleph on base quotes this Gemara verbatim that we just had and asks the same kasha. So we'll say, so first of all, before we get to the Gemara's answer, so the Rishonim give a different answer. The Rishonim say that according to many, when the Gemara talks about the Mishnah talks about the Asar Nisim, the 10 miracles that occurred, and that the pillar of smoke coming off the Mizbeach never veered one direction of another, according to many opinions, that doesn't refer to the outer Mizbeach. That actually refers to the Mizbeach HaPnimi, the Mizbeach HaKetores. That the Mizbeach HaKetores, the smoke itself always ascended in a pillar. But that's not Pasha Pshat. Pasha Pshat, Rabosai, is that it was the smoke of the Mizbeach HaChitzon, the outer Mizbeach. So how could the Gemara say over here, everybody's looking ultimately to see which direction the pillar of smoke went in? So the Gemara gives an amazing answer. The Gemara says, the Azli va'asi kedigli va'avduri lo hava mivdar. What it means to say is, the pillar of smoke, literally, listen to this lashon, the Azli va'asi kedigli, it swayed like a palm tree. However, the ibduri lo hava mivdar, it never dispersed. So the miracle was the column of smoke always remained intact. But what? It could absolutely move one direction, which also, if you think about it, is even a greater miracle, right? Meaning, so the pillar of smoke could be swayed by the winds, but ultimately, again, it always remained intact. So therefore, again, that's the reconciliation. So the miracle was, it always remained intact, but the Gemara says over here, they looked on Matzei Sukkis ultimately to go ahead and see which direction the winds were blowing in. All right, quite beautiful. Told you it was amazing Gemara. Let's say Kuf Mem Zayin Amud Beis. Second line. So let's listen to this. So up until now, the Gemara said that what? That Amat Shchimira is Mid'araisa, is biblical in nature. It says no. Quotes a second opinion of Nachman, says that in fact Amat Shchimira Bosa is only Mid'Rabanan. Shema Titrav Daitala. Why did the rabbis inside the Rabosai that Amat Shchimira, that a shchimera could convey property to another party? And it's kiksuvin damu, that if a shchimera conveys property just verbally, that has the ability or that has the impact as if it's committed in writing, there's a real kinyan. The rabbis instituted this for what purpose? In order to give a shchimera yishavadas. We'll say that when a person is dying, we don't want anything to exacerbate their difficult or precarious state. Therefore, in order to give a shchimera some yishavadas, some inner tranquility, we tell a shchimera, whatever you say, meaning whatever you command that you want done with your estate, is as good as being in writing. It's as if the kinyonim were performed. But it is a rabbinic mechanism, not a biblical mechanism. Did Rav Nachman really say this? We've actually learned this case before in Bava Kama and in Bava Metzia and the Ksubis and in Kiddusha. Right? So this was this now and again in Bava Basra. So what happens? Someone sells a shtar chov to us. We'll say, just to illustrate this case, I lend $10,000 to Ruben. And what happens? I decide. We'll say people do this all the time. No, you sell notes, right? It's called, but selling notes. Right? So essentially, what I'm doing is I sell to Shimon the ability to collect from Ruben. I sell the note. Watch this. Now watch this. Let's say after I go ahead and I sell the note. So I lent Ruben the money. So I hold the note. Remember, the creditor, the lender, always holds the document because that's my vehicle of collection. So I lent Ruben $10,000. I sell the note to Shimon for some amount of money. Now, but Pashas, I'm assuming that when you sell notes, you probably sell a note for less than the face value. I want the money now, so I sell it to Shimon for $9,000. So then I go over to Ruvain and I forgive the debt. So we'll say, what's the halacha in such a situation? Machol. We'll say the halacha is that in fact the debt is forgiven. Not only that, afilu yoresh machol. We'll say, let's say I pass away, my children inherit my estate, and one of my children forgives the debt to Ruvain, so the debt is forgiven. Now, both sides. Let's talk about this in just a moment. Now, both sides. If we're going to say, now, why is it machol? Take a look at the Rashbam. This is actually quite interesting. First white line in the Rashbam, machol, delo machar lo rishon l'sheni, ela kol schusha tavalo yado, velo adif haylokiach min malvet. Now, both sides. This presupposes the following. Borrows money from me. There is a relationship that has been created between me and Ruvain. That relationship is a non-transferable relationship. Now, what I can do is I can give to Shimon the shtar. And with the shtar, Shimon could show up ultimately again at Ruvain's doorstep and collect the money. But that does not make Shimon is not called the credit. Shimon is not called the malva. Shimon's called the guy with the shtar. there is a unique relationship that is established between borrower and lender that is a non-transferable relationship. So even if I sell the right of collection to a third party, that doesn't make that third party the malva. I am forever the malva. Not only that, but when I die, that my malva status transfers to my children, which means that even after I sell the note, I have the ability to cancel it, to forgive it. Now, obviously, if I forgive it, what happens? Shimon's upset, right? To put it mildly, right? Obviously, then I owe Shimon money. In other words, you can't have it both ways. If I took the money from Shimon, I gave him the document, and then I choose to forgive the debt, obviously, I owe a refund to Shimon. But the point over here is I retain that power. Now, watch this. However, says the Gemara, even in this case, even Shmuel holds that after you sell a debt, so that Malva, there's a unique relationship between Malva and Lova that is a non-transferable relationship. And therefore, Malva could go ahead and forgive the debt even after it's been sold. Mode Shmuel, Shemnosno b'matna shchivmira de'ino yachol lemachlo. Wow. So we'll say even Shmuel holds that all of this is when I sell the note in a regular way. But even Shmuel will say what I will say, that if I went ahead and the way I transmitted that note, in other words, I will say I'm a shchimira. I'm right. The malva is a shchimira, and the malva goes ahead and what? Through matna shchimira, transmits this debt person. Even Shmuel will agree that the shchimira no longer has the ability to what Shabbos say, no longer has the ability to forgive the debt. Which Shabbos say is very dramatic, because what it's telling me now is that a shchimira, right? Say if you want to say that a matna shchimira is doraisa, mishum hachi eno yachal limchol. I understand. About say if you say that matna shchimira is doraisa, then what? I understand then when the shchimira transmits this halva, this debt, to another person, I understand then why the shchimira no longer has the ability to cancel the debt. He's employed a biblical mechanism for conveyance, and therefore, again, he no longer has the right to negate the debt, to forgive the debt. However, if you say that I'm not the shchimira is dirabanan, so I don't understand. If the shchimira conveys, like the shchimira, remember, is the malva, the shchimira is the creditor. So the shchimira lent Ruvain $10,000. Now the shchimira wants to convey the debt to Shimon. See, if you say that what? That the shchimira is doraisa. So I understand why once shchimira transfers it over to Shimon, he can no longer forgive the debt. But if you say that the shchimira is dirabanan, so just because he transmitted it over to Shimon, why can't he go ahead and forgive it? To which the Gemara says, you're right. Eino shel Torah va'asa k'shel Torah. Both said this is actually a very interesting formulation. Matna shchimira bosai is a dirabanan. It is not a doraisa. It's not a doraisa. It is a rabbinic mechanism. But the rabbis endowed it with the strength as if it was a doraisa, which I will say is quite a dramatic statement. The idea being is the rabbis have, we see this in other areas of halacha, where the rabbis create a rabbinic construct, but endow that rabbinic construct with biblical strength. So amat the shchimira is a derabanan endowed with biblical-like strength. Therefore, if the shchimira conveys the right to the halva to someone else, he no longer has the ability to go ahead and what? Forgive that debt. It is fully transferred over to the recipient. Amar Rav Nachman. Shchimira was another interesting case. Sha'amar Yoder Ploni Bebayi Zeh. Yocha Ploni Peros Dekel Zeh Lo Amar Klum. And Shchimira on his deathbed says, I hereby convey the right to Ploni to live in this house, or I hereby convey the right to Ploni to eat the fruits of this tree. It is meaningless. Right? Why? I will say, take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment. It's about 10 lines up from the bottom. Amar Rav Nachman, Shchimira Sha'amar Yidar Ploni Bebayi Zeh. Yochal Ploni Peros Dekel Zeh Lo Amar Klum. Shadira in bo mamish ulaknosa uperas dekel nami ein adam makna davar shelo bali olam the chevan the mat masbar afilu bekin skulo karibos. Listen to this. What the Gemara is saying is the following: Matna shchimira avosei only works with the tangible. So if you convey to someone the right to live somewhere, avosei, the right to live in a place is not a tangible right. The right to get future fruit of a tree is not a tangible right. A shchimira can only go ahead and convey over something that is tangible. Therefore, says the Gemara, Ad sheyomer tenu bayis ze leploni biyadrbo. So we'll say, if I go ahead and I say, give this home to Ploni, that he could live in it. And we'll say, that's tangible. So you see the difference over here? If I say, Ploni has the right to live in this home, that's an intangible, and that can't be conveyed through a matna shchinira. If I say, this home should belong to Ploni, so that he has the right to live there. In this case, I'm not necessarily giving him ownership of the home. I'm giving him the right to live in the home. What I'm doing is I'm conveying the home to him. I'm conveying to him the home in order that he could live in it, or tenu dekel zel Ploni v'yochel perosav, or give to Ploni again this dekel, this palm tree, in order that he could eat the fruit. So you see the difference? To convey an intangible right, matna shchimera does not work. But you could convey an item in order to give Ploni the rights in that particular item. So the Gemara says Lememra. What do we see from here? The Savra Nachman, Milsa di Isib Bari. So what do you see? What you see from here is the following. The reason these things don't work is because they wouldn't work by a bari either. In other words, we'll say you can't convey to someone a right to live somewhere. You can't convey to someone future rights of fruits because those are intangibles. What you have to be able to do ultimately, again, is convey to someone a tangible. So I can convey to someone a home in which they have the right to live. I can convey to someone a tree in which they have future rights to fruits, rights to future fruit. But I can't convey an intangible. So we'll say, the Gemara says, you see from here that's what? That in order to understand the scope of what a shchimera is able to do, a shchimera's rights are based on what, or a shchimera's abilities are based on what a bari could accomplish. The name of the Savra Nachman, Milsa di Isei bebari, Isa b'shchimera, the lessa bebari, lessa b'shchimera. So you see from here, I will say that's what? That Rav Nachman holds that whatever a bari could do, a shchimera has the ability to do also. Just the difference being that what? That a shchimera could do it without what Rabbi say? A formal kinyan. But if a bari can't do it, meaning if it's something that a regular person could not affect, then a shchimera can't affect that either. So I will say, we're going to stop over here. We're going to challenge that assertion of Yirtzeh Hashem first thing tomorrow morning, but we're ending off again with this particular construct. So I will say, so we end off understanding, just we're ending off over here, in addition to all the beautiful lessons we got on Amud Aleph, right? I will say the beautiful Eitzes of Achitofel, the important of Eitzes of Achitofel, don't get about the Machlokas, don't rebel against the Davidic monarchy, and if it's a clear day on Shavuos, plant your wheat on that day. We also learned the idea that the miracle of the Ashan, of the ascending smoke from the Mizbeach, is not that it didn't move, but rather, again, it moved in different directions, it just never dissipated. We also learned that, I will say, everyone agrees that if a person makes a statement and there's a clear intent in that statement, then the statement is predicated on that Tanai. Even if you don't hold normally of Umdina, what we now also understand is the Machlokes, is matna shchimera, is the ability for a shchimera to convey without a kinyan. Is that a daraisa derabanan? Some want to posit that it's a daraisa. But I say we're holding right now, it seems to be it's a derabanan that is endowed with the strength of a daraisa. So it is a rabbinic law that is given biblical strength. Now the question is, what is the scope of a matna shchimera? We end off with Rav Nachman's statement that a shchimera can never do more than a bari. Whatever a bari could do, a shchimera could do just without formal kinyanim. So if a bari can't do it, therefore a shchimera can't do it either. That's the assumption we're leaving off with, and that's the assumption of Yirtzeh Hashem that we will challenge first thing tomorrow.